hypocrites, aren't you? I mean, while young people, for example, are going to have to pay a lot more to go to university, particularly poorer young people, you haven't enforced the cap on care for the elderly, so that there, yet again, pensioners are getting a boost at the expense of young people.
That's not quite right, because we've delayed the introduction of the cap.
You haven't enforced it.
But it's true that, you know, one of the sorts of areas that you can have a big reform, make a lot of savings, is in student finance.
Who don't vote for you, unlike pensioners who do.
On the contrary, actually, quite a lot of under-25s voted Conservative, as did people right across the age spectrum.
Well, I think the majority voted Labour, and in the elderly spectrum, a majority voted Conservative.
But we can go over the figures if you like. But it's not about who people vote for. And in fact, I think one of the things that we've seen in this announcement today, in the budget with the national living wage, is actually the government acting in the long-term interests of the whole country, and with this one nation approach. And actually, so what you're seeing from the other parties is a much more partial, you know, split approach, not knowing who that they stand for. And so on this central point about that you're asking about, how do you get the money out? Part of the answer is reform. So if we say to people that instead of having grants when you go to university, you take the money as a loan, and if and only if you get a good job paying over £21,000, then you pay that money back, then that is a good...
You're defining a good job as one below the national average by quite a long way.
Well, no, £21,000 is a reasonable level at which to start paying back. You only start as a low amount. It increases as you get a better paid job. But the key point is that I think that is fair on taxpayers, many of whom didn't go to university, as well as fair on people who are going through this system. That takes a big saving out.
I mean, just take a young person from a family, none of them have been to university before. What was going to be a debt maybe of about £20,000 to £30,000 is now going to be over £50,000. That's going to be a disincentive. It has to be, doesn't it?
Well, but the argument was made. I was about to accuse you of making this argument. You probably did. 3 or 4 years ago, when we brought in the £9,000 fees, people said this will put off people, especially from the poorest backgrounds, going to university. But actually, no, but Adam, the opposite happened.
Yeah, but that's because the very poorest could get grants. Now they're getting loans as well, and so they're going to have a debt.
Actually, these grants weren't going to only to the very poorest. They were going to about 50%, half of students. So this wasn't a well-targeted system, and changing it to loans allows us to make sure there's more cash in the pocket of the students, and at the same time ensure that they don't pay back until they earn £21,000. But the bigger picture point is this. Being able to take the big decisions like that sort of reform allows you to make big savings in some areas, and so get away from exactly the salami slicing, as you put it. You know, so by protecting departments that we and voters care a lot about, like the NHS, like schools, like our defence and national security, by protecting those, and by big reforms, we're able to make savings in a way that supports the services that the public rely on. And after all, the goal of this, and of the civil servants who deliver all these services, is to build a country that works better for working people.
Okay.
That's what we're in it for.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew Hancock.